Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Praptasya Kalyanam Gurunanavasya Vande Gurashi Charanaruvindam Praptasya Kalyanam Gurunanavasya Vande Gurashi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Vaju Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shri Vigrahara Dhana Nityanana Shringara Tanama Niramajanado Shri Juktasya bhaktamsya niyunjatopi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasado Kridvaiva Trupte Vajata Shadeva Bande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Shiradi Kama Gabayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradi Kama Gabayara Para Madhura Leela Pratikshana Swa Dhanalarupasya Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Ne kunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jajali Bheri Jukti Apekshaniya Nikunja Juno Ratikeli Tatrati daksha ativarabhasya Bande Gora Shri Charanara Vrindam Sakshad Haritena Shamasta Shashri Ruktastatava Vyataiva Sadhuve Kintu Prabhoja Priyaiva Tasya Bande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Sya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasada Nagati Kutapi Yayam Stuvam Tasa Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Dhyayam Stuvam Tasya Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Yasatrin Sandhyam Vande Gurashi Charanara Vrindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachata Disha Tarine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Prabhupada Sunavadi Pachata Deshata Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna हरियाराय नमः कृष्ण जादवाय नमः जादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्टर गुना श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दसर गुना श्री श्री राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव सुभद्रमा जय सुदर्शन चक्र निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि बोल जय विष्णु पार परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र सर शिष्य महाराज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभयचर बिंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गौरी गुरुवार पतित उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्रीमन गुरु चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावरण अवतार की जय गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जग की जय जोग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेट बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप राधा कुंज सम कुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय दिलो शिव श्री श्री राधा नील माधव की जय मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमद सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशना कर श्रृंगारे भगवान की जय जगंगा माय जमुना माय की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा धारानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gaura.
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाददायिने प्रहलाद लाददायिने
प्रहलाद लाददायिने
हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः
हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः
शीलतङ्कानकालाय
शीलतङ्कानकालाय
तो नरसिंह परतो नरसिंह
इतो निसिंह परतो निसिंह
यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह
यतो यतो यामि ततो निसिंह
बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो
बहिर्निसिंह हृदये निसिंह
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे
नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपदे
तव करकमलवरे नाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गां केशवधृता नरहरे रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
तव कर कमल भरे नाका अद्भुत सिंहा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे
केशवधृता नरहरे रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
केशवधृता नरहरि रूप जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे जय जगदीश रे
जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव
जय निसिंहदेव 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 जय निसिंहदेव
जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जयो प्रहलाद महाराज
जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जयो जयो प्रभुपाद 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 जयो जयो प्रभुपाद
जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद
जयो जयो गुरुदेव 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 जयो जयो गुरुदेव
जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
जय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल श्री भक्ति पद सर्व विघ्नाशना कनिष्ठ हरे भगवान की जय जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौरी प्रमानंदे Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devi Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priya Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavatai Namo Namo. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki. What did you want to sing? Okay. Oh, okay.
This is fine. Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Iya Bhilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Vilasi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Iya Bhilashi
Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eya Vilasi.
Jito Mara Sharanalo Tara Vancha Purana Ho
Jeta Mar Sharana Lao Tarabancha Puna.
Kripa Kori Koro Tare Vrindavan Vasi
Tumi Kripa Kare Karatare Vrindavanavasi.
Morae Abhilash Vilas Kunje Diova
Morae Avila Vilas Kunje Yava.
Nayane Haribo Sada Jugal Ruparasi
Aminayane Viva Sada Jugala Ruparasi. किरणो तकर
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी
सेवायादि कर दिए करो निज दासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोए जीना मोरा होए
दीना कृष्ण दास कौन ए नाम राम
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा नवासी
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा नवासी
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादि कानि तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी
जय तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी, तुलसी महारानी, जय तुलसी महारानी.
जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी जय वृंदा देवी
जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदा देवी.
नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल
नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल.
श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय.
जय श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदेवी सतवताय नमः. वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sattavataye Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Sattavataye Namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi Ki. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in Pleasure Grove, Shri Vrindavan Dham. As within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower, carry the emissaries of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your unmet servant. This very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always sing in love Shri Radha and Govinda, Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani, Vrindadevi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kristakam Ki Jai. Chitodapana Mahajanam Bhavamadava Nivapanam Shri Yakari Vachandika Vikaram Vidyavadhujivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purnamritashaganam Sarvatmasnam Param Param Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vamdha Nija Sarva Shakti Tatrati Tanyamita Smane Nakala Itadrishi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durghaiva Midishamya Janina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishruna Amani Namanilina Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadhanam Nadhanam Nasundari Kavitam Raja Karisha Kamai Mama Dharmani Dharmanishwari Bhavata Bhakti Rahiti Pai Vayanatana Jatim Karam Patitamam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tavapadakam Pujaspitaduri Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galarashrudharaya Varinam Bhargadavridaya Gila Ulakai Chitam Bapurukale Papanama Parane Varishati Yudaitam Nishena Jatvisa Parusaritam Sunyaitam Vedata Sarvam Govinda Virahinam Asri Sura Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavarannaya Krishna Prema Pradaya Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Gauri Krishna Maha. Namo Shampradaya Krishna Krishna. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life or repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, think of oneself Lord and strong and straight, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant over the name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I'm falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, only my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. And will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on an end of the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling vacant in the world with your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if he sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Jai Shri 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 Krishna Kama Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma.
To be Kultur independent names of Lord Vishnu.
3.
To disobey the orders of
spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the
Vedic
Vedic
literature,
or
literature
literature
and pursuance of
Vedic
Vedic
version. 5. To consider
consider
the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to the
imagination.
imagination. 6.
To
Give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the
auspicious
auspicious
ritualistic activities which are from the Vedas as
fruit
fruit of activities of karma kanda.
9.
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
And 10.
To not have complete faith in the chanting of holy names, and to maintain material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. And so for our most humble obeisance unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, they are just like desired
they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are
full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa Tarabhyascha Kripa Sindhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur Ki Jai. Ama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutri Smati Bhakti Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vichari Nirvisesa Sunyavari Paskati Sudhan Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganyatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Shapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Pachakamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagranatam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Saraswati Iti Namini Shivasavanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupa Nuga Virudhapa Apasidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhude Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Goro Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhaktasaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Bhangur Mama Mandamater Gati Yat Sasrasya Padambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestadi Bihi Sevyamanam Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasaram Bivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswanir Gopir Gopinatakstana Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchatattva Mahamantra Ki Jai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion Sri Nityananda Prabhu and his incarnation Sri Advaita Prabhu and his internal potency Sri Gadadhar Prabhu and his marginal potency Sri Vas Pandit Prabhu. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva mantra. Then we say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, but these are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Mahavadanyāvatara, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of the fallen souls. Thus, to derive the full benefit of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, we must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That will be very effective. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The transcendental vibration established by the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method of reviving our Krishna consciousness. As living spirits, spiritual souls, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities. But due to our association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by the material atmosphere. The material atmosphere in which we are now living is called Maya, or illusion. Maya means that which is not. And what is this illusion? The illusion is that we are all trying to be lords of material nature, while actually we are under the grip of stringent laws. When a servant artificially tries to imitate the all-powerful master, this is called illusion. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature. But actually, we are becoming more and more entangled in our complexities. Therefore, although we are engaged in a hard struggle to conquer nature, we are ever more dependent on her. This illusory struggle against material nature can be stopped at once by revival of our Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. This consciousness is the original energy of the living entity. When we hear the transcendental vibration, this consciousness is revived, and this process is recommended for this age by authorities. By practical experience also, one can perceive that by chanting this Mahamantra, or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel a transcendental ecstasy coming through from the spiritual stratum. And when one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of senses, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on the transcendental plane. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, and thus this sound vibration surpasses all lower strata of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. There is no need, therefore, to understand the language of the mantra, nor is there any need for mental speculation or any intellectual adjustment for chanting this Maha Mantra. It springs automatically from the spiritual platform, and as such, anyone can take part in the chanting without any previous qualification and dance in ecstasy. We have seen this practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. Of course, for one is too entangled in material life, it takes a little more time to come to the standard point. But even such a materially engrossed man is raised to the spiritual platform very quickly. When the mantra is chanted by a pure devotee of the Lord in love, it has the greatest efficacy on the hearers, and as such, this chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord so that immediate effects can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotees should be avoided. Milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects. The word Hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord, and the words Krishna and Rama are forms of addressing the Lord himself. Both Krishna and Rama mean the supreme pleasure, and Hara is the supreme pleasure energy of the Lord changed to Hare in the vocative. The supreme pleasure energy of the Lord helps us to reach the Lord. The material energy called Maya is also one of the multi-energies of the Lord, and we, the living entities, are also the energy, marginal energy of the Lord. The living entities are described as superior to material energy. When the superior energy is in contact with the inferior energy, an incompatible situation arises, but when the superior marginal energy is in contact with the superior energy, called Hara, the living entity is established in its happy, normal condition. These three words, namely Hari, Krishna, and Rama, are the transcendental seeds of the Mahamantra. The chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord and his internal energy, Hara, to give protection to the conditioned soul. This chanting is exactly like the genuine cry of a child for its mother. Mother Hara helps the devotee achieve the grace of the Supreme Father Hari, or Krishna, and the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. No other means of spiritual realization, therefore, is as effective in this age as chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mahamantra, Hare Krishna ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Verse number 11. Shama Vadata Satapatra Lochana Pisanga Vastra Surucha Supesasa Sarve Chaturbhava Sarve Chaturbhava Unmishamani Pravekaniska Pararana Suvarchasaha. Shama, sky blue, sky bluish. Avadata, glowing. Satapatra, lotus flower. Lochana, eyes. Pisanga, yellowish. Vastra, clothing. Surucha, greatly attractive. Supesasa, growing youthful. Sarve, all of them. Chatu, four. Bahava, hands. Unmisan, rising luster. Mani, pearls. Praveka, superior quality. Niska Abharana, ornamental medallions. Suvarchasa, effulgent. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets are described as having a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers. Their dress is of yellowish color, and their bodily features very attractive. They are just the age of growing youths. They all have 4 hands, and they are all nicely decorated with pearl necklaces with ornamental medallions, and they all appear to be effulgent. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The inhabitants in Vaikuntha Loka are all personalities with spiritual bodily features, not to be found in the material world. We can find the descriptions in the revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. Impersonal descriptions of transcendence in the scriptures indicate that the bodily features in Vaikuntha Loka are never to be seen in any part of the universe. As there are different bodily features in different places of a particular planet, or as there are different bodily features between bodies in different planets, similarly, the bodily features of the inhabitants in Vaikuntha Loka are completely different from those in the material universe. For example, the 4 hands are distinct from the 2 hands in this world. Pravala Vaidurya Mrinala Varchasa Padispurat Kundala Moli Malina. Translation. Let's see. Pravala, coral. Vaidurya, a special diamond. Mrinala, celestial lotus. Varchasa, rays. Parispurat, blooming. Kundala, earring. Moli, heads. Malina, with garlands. Some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds in complexion, and have garlands on their heads, blooming like lotus flowers, and some wear earrings. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are some inhabitants who have attained the liberation of sarupya, or possessing bodily features like those of the personality of Godhead. The Vaidurya diamond is especially meant for the personality of Godhead, but one who achieves the liberation of bodily equality with the Lord is especially favored with such diamonds on his body. Text 13. Brajisnubirya parito virajate lasat vimana valibir mahatmanam viyotamana paramadotamadyubi savidyu abra valibir yatanabaha. Brajisnubhi, by the glowing, the Vaikuntha Lokas, Parita, surrounded by, Virajate, thus situated, Lasat, brilliant, Vimana, airplanes, Avalibhi, assemblage, Maha Atmanam, of the great devotees of the Lord. Vidyotamana, beautiful like lightning. Pramada, ladies. Uttama, celestial. Adyubhi, by complexion. Savidyut, with electric lightning. Abra Valibi, with clouds in the sky. Yata, as it were. Nabaha, the sky. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Vaikuntha planets are also surrounded by various airplanes, all glowing and brilliantly situated. These airplanes belong to the great Mahatmas, or devotees of the Lord. The ladies are as beautiful as lightning because of their celestial complexions, and all these combined together appear just like the sky decorated with both clouds and lightning. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It appears that in the Vaikuntha planets there are also airplanes brilliantly glowing, and they are occupied by the great devotees of the Lord, with ladies of celestial beauty as brilliant as lightning. As there are airplanes, so there must be different types of carriages like airplanes, but they may not be driven machines, as we have experienced in this world, because everything is of the same natural nature of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. The airplanes and carriages are of the same quality as Brahman. Although there is nothing except Brahman, one should not mistakenly think that there is only void and no variegatedness. Thinking like that is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Otherwise, no one would have such a misconception of voidness in Brahman. As there are airplanes, ladies, and gentlemen, so there must be cities and houses and everything else just suitable to the particular planets. One should not carry the ideas of imperfection from this world to the transcendental world, and not take into consideration the nature of the atmosphere as completely free from the influence of time, etc., as described previously. Text 14. Shriryatra rupin uragaya padayo karoti manam bahuda vibhutibihi prenkam shitaya kusuma karangurai vigiyamana priyakarma gayati. Shri, the goddess of fortune. Yatra, in the Vaikuntha planets. Rupini, in her transcendental form. Urugaya, the Lord, who is sung of by the great devotees. Padayo, under the lotus feet of the Lord. Karoti, does. Manam, respectful services. Bahuda, in the diverse paraphernalia. Vibhutihi, accompanied by her personal associates. Prenkam, movement of enjoyment. Shrita, taken shelter of. Ya, who, Kusumakara, spring. Anugai, by the black bees. Vigiyamana, being followed by the songs. Priya karma, activities of the dearmost. Gayati, singing. Translation: the goddess of fortune in her transcendental form is engaged in the loving service of the Lord's lotus feet, and being moved by the black bees, followers of spring, she is not only engaged in variegated pleasure, service to the Lord, although with her constant companions, but is also engaged in singing the glories of the Lord's activities. Text 15. Dadarsa tatra kila sattvatam patim Shriyapatim Yagyapatim Jagatpatim Sunandananda Prabhablar Hanadibihi Swapar Sadagrai Parisevitam Vibhum. The Darsha, Brahma saw, Tatra, there, in Vaikuntha Loka, Akila, entire, Sattvatam, of the great devotees, Patim, the Lord, Shriya, of the goddess fortune, Patim, the Lord, Yagya, of sacrifice, Patim, the Lord, Jagat, of the universe, Patim, the Lord, Sunanda, Nanda, Prabhala, Arhana, Adibi, by them, Swaparsada, own associates, Agrai, by the foremost, Parisevitam, being served in transcendental love, Vibhum, the great Almighty. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma saw on the Vaikuntha planets the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of the entire devotee community. The Lord of the goddess of fortune, the Lord of all sacrifices, and the Lord of the universe, and who is served by the foremost servitors like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabhala, and Arhana, his immediate associates. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When we speak of a king, it is naturally understood that the king is accompanied by his confidential associates, like his secretary, private secretary, aide-de-camp, ministers, and advisors. So also when we see the Lord, we see him with his different energies, associates, confidential servitors, etc. So the Supreme Lord, who is the leader of all living entities, the Lord of all devotees' sects, the Lord of all opulences, the Lord of sacrifices, and the enjoyer of everything in his entire creation, is not only the Supreme Person, but also is always surrounded by his immediate associates, all engaged in their loving transcendental service to him. Text 16. Pritya prasada bimukam drid asatvam prasana hasaruna lochananam Kiritinam kundalinam chaturbhujam Pitam sukham vaksasi sa lakshitam shriya. Britya, the servitor. Prashada, affection. Abhimukam, favorably facing. Drik, the very sight. Asavam, an intoxication. Prasanna, very much pleased. Hasa, smile. Aruna, reddish. Lochana, eyes. Ananam, face. Kiritinam, with helmet. Kundalinam, with earrings. Chatu, bhujam, with 4 hands. Pita, yellow. Amsukam, dress. Vakshasi, on the chest. Lakshitam, marked. Shriya, with the goddess of fortune. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead seen leaning favorably towards his loving servitors, his very sight intoxicating and attractive, appeared to be very much satisfied. He had a smiling face decorated with an enchanting reddish hue. He was dressed in yellow robes and wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In the Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda, there is a full description of the Yoga Pitta, or the particular place where the Lord is in audience to his eternal devotees. In that Yoga Pitta, the personifications of religion, knowledge, opulence, and renunciation are all seated at the lotus feet of the Lord. The 4 Vedas, namely Rik, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, are present there personally to advise the Lord. The 16 energies headed by Chanda are all present there. Chanda and Kumuda are the first 2 doorkeepers. At the middle door are the doorkeepers named Bhadra and Subhadra. And at the last door are Jaya and Vijaya. There are other doorkeepers also named Kumuda, Kumudaksha, Pondarika, Vamana, and Sankakarna, Sarva Netra, and Sumukha, etc. The Lord's palace is well decorated and protected by the above-mentioned doorkeepers. Well, one thing is very important to understand, that in the spiritual world, everything is personal. So therefore, the personifications of religion, knowledge, opulence, renunciation are all seated at the lotus feet of the Lord. The 4 Vedas, Rik, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, are present there personally to advise the Lord. And then the 16 energies headed by Chanda are all present there. And then you have the doorkeepers. So this is very interesting, because in the spiritual world, it's completely different in many ways than the material world. There are things there that we don't see here. We see the facsimiles of those things, but not the real things. And therefore, most people live in a state of illusion. So the physical features, the spiritual physical features of Lord Krishna and the inhabitants of Vaikuntha Lokas are described, and also their appurtenances such as airplanes, their dress, their colors, and what they do. So much information is given here in these verses that we read. And now I'll read the final one. Tadar satatra kila satvatam patim 15. Oh, we have 17. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. Adyar haniyasanam astitam param. Vritam chatusodasa pancha shakti bihi. Yuktam bhagaisvar itaratras chad druvai. Swaeva dhamam ramamanam ishwaram. Adyarhanya, greatly worshipable. Asanam, throne. Astitam, seated on it. Param, the supreme. Ritam, surrounded by. Chatu, four, namely Prakriti Purusha Mahatan ego. Sodasa, the 16, Pancha, the 5, Shakti Bihi, by the energies, Yuktam, empowered with, Bhagai, his opulences, Svai, personal, Itaratra, other minor prowesses, Cha, also, Adruvai, temporary, Sve, own, Eva, certainly, Daman, abode, Ramamanam, enjoying, Ishwaram, the Supreme Lord. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord enjoying his own abode. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord is naturally endowed with his 6 opulences. Specifically, he is the richest, he is the most powerful, he is the most famous, he is the most beautiful, he is the greatest in knowledge, and he is the greatest renouncer as well. And for his material creative energies, he is served by 4, namely the principles of Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatattva, and ego. He is also served by the 16, namely the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Earth, water, air, fire, and sky. The 5 perceptive sense organs, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. And the 5 working senses, the hand, the leg, the stomach, the evacuation outlet, and the genitals, and the mind. The 5 includes the sense objects, namely form, taste, smell, sound, touch. All these 25 items serve the Lord in the material creation, and all of them are personally present to serve the Lord. The insignificant opulences, numbering 8, the Astasiddhis, attained by yogis for temporary overlordship, are also under the control, but he is naturally full with all such powers without any effort, and therefore he is the Supreme Lord. The living being, by severe penance and performance of bodily exercises, can temporarily attain some wonderful power, but that does not make him the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, by his own potency, is unlimitedly more powerful than any yogi. He is unlimitedly more learned than any jnani. He is unlimitedly richer than any wealthy person. He is unlimitedly more beautiful than any beautiful living being, and he is unlimitedly more charitable than any philanthropist. He is, above all, no one is equal to or greater than him, nor can anyone reach his level of perfection in any of the above powers by any amount of penance or yogic demonstrations. The yogis are dependent on his mercy. Out of his immensely charitable disposition, he can award some temporary powers to the yogis because of the yogis' hankering after them, but to his unalloyed devotees who do not want anything from the Lord save and accept his transcendental service, the Lord is so pleased that he gives himself in exchange for unalloyed service. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so this is very interesting because this is the science of Krishna. And if we want to be Krishna conscious, we have to know the science of Krishna. Otherwise, we won't be able to explain properly to people who is Krishna. So, Krishna is seated on a throne, on his throne, and was surrounded by different energies. So, those 4 different energies, they are Prakriti, Purusha, and Mahatattva, and ego. Okay, and then you have the 16 principles that are serving him. So namely, you have the 5 material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. You have the 5 perceptive organs, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin. You have the 5 sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. You have the 5 working senses, that is the arms, the legs, the stomach, the genital, and the anus, the evacuation. And then, so this makes, and then you have the mind also. So you have 5, 5, 5, 5, 20, and then 1 is 21. And then you have the 5 objects of the senses: seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. So that makes 25. And besides that, there's also the Mahatattva, which was one of the 4 principles. Okay, so this is an explanation of the living entity in the material world, and also everything about the living entity belongs to the Lord. These are all his energies and these principles. So there is a indelible relationship between the Lord and his devotees. And this is something that the atheists and the Mayavadis want to eliminate, this relationship. And the atheists want to eliminate everything about the relationship. And the Mayavadis, they want to whittle it down to just one thing, and that is Brahman. Right? But actually, it's much more variegated than that. And you see how, due to enviousness of Krishna, the scientists, the philosophers, and the Mayavadis, they're canceling so many things, all the wonderful details of the Lord's beautiful body, the bodies of his eternal servants in the spiritual world, their clothing, their everything. They're denying it all. And that's a very malicious thing. It's only because of envy. Even the Mayavadis, who are talking about Brahman, they're also envious of the Lord. You know, and then of course the demons, they're completely envious in every sense. So then it says, no one can be equal to or greater than the Lord, no matter how much penance or austerity that they subject themselves to. And no one can equal the Lord in anything, not in beauty, not in knowledge, not in power, not in renunciation, not in wealth. No, in no way can anyone come even close to him, not through doing austerities and attaining mystical powers. So you have what's called the yoga siddhis. So these are subordinate or less important opulences that the Lord has in full, but others try and emulate. So you have anima, reducing the size to an atom, or becoming, like invisible in a sense, right? Then you have mahima, expanding the body to infinite size. And with mahima, there's garima, being infinitely heavy. And then There's lagima, being weightless, and prapti, the ability to be anywhere at will, and prakamya, realizing whatever one desires, or stretching your hand and getting whatever you want. Isitva, supremacy over nature. Vasitva, control of natural forces. And Kamavasayita, being able to create an alternate universe. These are 8 yoga siddhis. And then you have the Asta, Asta gunas, which are, 1, you're always untouched by contamination of material existence. And then you have Krishna never dies, and therefore he's never forgetful of all his previous appearances. And number 3, he never becomes old. And number 4, he's never subject to lamentation. And number 5, he's never hungry. And number 6, he's never thirsty. And number 7, whatever he desires is perfectly legal. In other words, he doesn't commit any crimes, right? And number 8, whatever he decides cannot be changed by anyone. So these are the Astagunas, and then the Astasiddhis. These are subordinate, let's say, qualities or opulences of the Lord. And sometimes the yogis try and emulate them, but no one has complete, let's say, opulence like the Lord. So, and there are things that it's very difficult for them to emulate, but they try. Just like Vishwamrita Muni, he was able to create an alternate universe. Not for very long, though. Okay. So, then there's more information in what's called the agamas and the what's called Komuda, Sankhya Komudi. These are subordinate Vedic literatures. They're not as significant as the original Vedic literatures, but they are supplementary. Okay, so this topic of Krishna is a science, and in order to be able to understand it, there's the secret of learning this science. The secret of learning this science. And that is a verse spoken by Brahma in the 10th canto, 14th chapter, 3rd verse, where he says, Jnani prasad payasam utapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukh klaritam bhavadbhya vartam stane stita srutigatan tanuvan manobi ye prayesu jito jitapi asitais trilokyam. Very nice verse. This is teaching, or Brahma is telling us, the secret of learning this science of Krishna. And he says, Lord Brahma said, O my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation, he gives up all speculation, aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme, he gives up the desire to become one with Krishna, and engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint, and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life. Such a person can conquer your sympathy and mercy even though you are ajita, unconquerable. Bhagavatam 10:14-3. This is the path of the Paramahansas, which was personally followed by Lord Brahma and later recommended by him for attaining perfect success in life. So this is the secret of learning the science of Krishna. So let's go over that secret a little bit more in detail. Basically, what we've been reading are the step-by-step practices that Brahma undertook in order to become a perfect representative of Krishna. And we can attain the same perfection as Brahma because he's a jiva like us. We can't emulate Shiva. We can't emulate Narayana or Krishna. But we can come up to the point of Brahma if we follow his footsteps. We can attain the same perfection by following the path of the Paramahansa. And it's recommended here. It says, Lord Chaitanya also approved of this method of self-realization for people in this age. One should first, with all conviction, so conviction, in other words, has several meanings, right? Like you can convict a criminal, right? But conviction also means that you become fully appraised and fully convinced to do something. So look up the word conviction. There's a whole bunch of different meanings. What's it say? Conviction. Anybody?
A formal declaration that someone is guilty of a
Yeah, that's
criminal offense
that's the way it's used most of the time. But also, go ahead.
made by the verdict of a jury or the decision of a judge
Okay.
in a court of law.
Next one.
Second is a firmly held belief
Yeah,
or
that's the point. Firmly held belief. Is there any more?
or opinion.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, this is the first thing. One should first, with all conviction, with all firm belief and faith, believe in the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. Otherwise, you're not going to make any spiritual advancement unless we come to that point. So, it's hard to bring people to that point because they've been educated not to believe it, not to believe in the scriptures, and this is in India, right? For many generations, the British were teaching Indians, don't believe in your shastras. Not everybody took that up, but they took part of it up. They said, well, maybe our shastras are not millions of years old, but at least they're older than the Bible, you know. And then you had all these scholars like these German scholars and these English scholars and French scholars all saying, well, I mean, the Vedas were written approximately the same time as Jesus Christ, you know, or something like that, right? So they're breaking the whole timeline of the Vedas and making it sort of subordinate to the timeline of the Bible. And that's going on today also. You can read, look up Vedas and see what they say when they were written. Or when they were spoken. Vedas might have been written down only 5,000 years ago, yes, because before that they didn't have to write it down. They were memorized. What's it say? Timeline of the Vedas by the scholars.
So it is attested in the Vedas and related literature compiled over the period of mid-second to mid-first millennium BCE.
That means 1,000 years before Jesus Christ. Okay, whenever it said, what is said before the C, what? BCE. That means before the birth of Christ. BCE, before the birth. So, you know, they subordinated to the Christian timeline, you see, all the scholars. They want to make it subordinate. So they say the Bible probably was written before the Vedas. If it says 1,000 years before Jesus Christ, they claim that the Old Testament, written by the Jews, was about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. probably 4,000, 3,000 years, maybe 4,000 years. Okay, so we see how vicious people are. And all the academics and all the professors and everything, they believe these things. And they try and destroy the whole truth about the Vedas. Okay, so the first thing is to have all conviction, not just a conviction, but all conviction, be firmly situated in belief that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and without making efforts to realize him by speculative philosophy. We shouldn't try that. See, now the Christians have made efforts to understand Jesus by speculative philosophy after they got defeated by the scientists. How did they get defeated by the scientists and the so-called Age of Enlightenment, which is around the 17th, 18th century, when science became very prominent? Well, because there was so-called scientific proof that debunked things that the Catholic Church believed that were solid truth for the Catholics. Like, number one, that the sun revolves around the earth. But it was proven by Copernicus and later on by Galileo that the earth revolves around the sun. This was something that the Catholic Church was ready to kill people, not to believe, but finally they got defeated. And then, because of Darwin and all the archaeologists and because of the biologists, and carbon dating and blah, 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 this thing, that thing, they started dating origins of life in millions of years. And then the Bible says it's only 5,000 years ago it all happened. So then they started to accept speculation and not adhere to what the Bible says. So you have the modern Christians that say, well, we can accept evolution. Yeah, we can accept it. Yeah, it all started way before 5,000 years. Huh? Yeah.
So when Bible was written, it was not Jesus Christ who spoke everything. It's the followers who speculated and
No, well, first of all, there are two sections of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is written way before Jesus. Basically, it's the history of the Jews. Then we come up to Jesus. About 60 to 80 years after he died, they started writing the Bible. Maybe they had some notes before that. So there are four major books of the Bible. There's Mark, Luke, and Matthew, and the fourth one is not Paul, but anyway, there are four books. These are the four major books of the Bible. And then there's a lot of other books that are part of it. But the four of the original disciples, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and what's the fourth one? It's not, is it Paul? No, it's not Paul. It is, anyway, there are four books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and one more. So they were contemporaries of Jesus. They were there when Jesus was on the earth, right? And then after that, there are other books that were written by Paul. He wrote a whole bunch of things. And John. There was John. John was the fourth one. Yeah. So those are called the four Gospels. Those are more or less the most authoritative thing because these were real witnesses of Jesus, right? So, and then over time, there have been different variations of the Bible. And then there were some parts of the Bible that were rejected. Like in the Old Testament, there's some books that are rejected, and some books that are rejected in the New Testament also. So one of them would be the Aquarian Bible. Prabhupada referred to that several times. It says that Jesus did not actually die on the cross, but he was a yogi who went into samadhi, and they thought he was dead, and that's how he came back. And then he actually didn't go up to heaven, as the apostles say, but he went to Pakistan, parts of what's today Pakistan, and his grave is there. And it's either Pakistan or Nepal, and it's being maintained by the Ahmadi sect. Ahmadis are people that are hated by the Muslims. They kill them, but they have they overlook the so-called grave of Jesus. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy things in this world. Who knows if it's true or not true? But anyway, so now one has to give up speculative philosophy. One should prefer to hear about Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and later from the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But one should hear such discourses from a person Bhagavatam and not from the professional man or from a karmi, jnani, or yogi. That is the secret of learning the science. One does not need to be in the renounced order of life. He can remain in his present condition of life, but he or she must search out the association of a bona fide devotee of the Lord and hear from him the transcendental message of the Lord with faith and conviction. That is the path of Paramahansa recommended herein. Amongst various holy names of the Lord, he is also called Ajita, or one who can never be conquered by anyone else. Yet, he can be conquered by the Paramahansa path, as practically realized and shown by the great spiritual master, Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has personally recommended this Paramahansa Pantha, or path, in his own words as follows: Jnani Prayasam Utapasya Namanta Eva, and so forth. 10:14:3. Okay, so this is the secret of learning the science of Krishna consciousness. Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Are there any questions? That's the next verse we're going to read tomorrow. It doesn't matter. If you hear carefully, you'll understand.
I just want to note down.
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also emphasizes that particular verse.
Yes, in the discussions. I'll show you where in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In his discussions with Ramananda Rai, he asked him, what's the best way to become Krishna conscious? And Ramananda Rai says a whole bunch of things, but when he says this verse, he said, aha, now that is right, he said. And then there's more after that, but that was the turning point in their discussion. Haribol. We'll go over that tomorrow, that discussion between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Rai. It's very profound. What? Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize it. Thank you.
And then I put juice in your room.
Okay. And you want me to give you this book, and can you bring it back by tomorrow?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be hard to.
This one is easy.
Yeah. Any other questions? What? Yes. 2.9.9. He just took my book, so you have to. You have to. It's absorption. Yeah. So let me see that. Okay, that's all right. I know. So the mnemonic is ahai. Mahai, yeah. So you have the material nature, right? And then you have attachment, and then you have hatred, then you have absorption, and you have ignorance. So when it says attachment, that is illusion, and absorption is pride. or lust. Okay, okay. Yeah, proud, lust. Okay, so you have lust, and then hatred is anger. So lust, anger. There's envy also. No, let's see. A person who's absorbed is envious. They can't get it out of their mind. They're proud and then they're envious. So what is the question again?
What is the, I could understand absorption in relation to hatred, attachment.
Yeah. Well, absorption is pride, and it turns into enviousness when someone else tries to outdo them. Okay, no more questions, and we will have our Guru Puja. Who wants to lead? Okay, Adi Dave, you want to lead?
Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhagati Sadma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Bandhamuhi Savadhana Mate.
Bandhamu Isabadana Mate.
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai.
Janara Prasade Bhai He Bhavatoriya Jai.
Krishna Prapti Yo Jaha Hoite.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Ase.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya.
Guru Mukha Chitite Goriya.
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha.
Arana Koriya Mane Asa.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati.
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha.
Ye Prasade Pure Sarva Asa.
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जायते
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जायते
वेद गाय जहाँ रचरितो
वेद गाय जनर चरितो
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनारा बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधन जनर बंधु
लोकेनाथ लोकेरा जीवाना
हे बेयास शक्ति भुवाना
हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया
आहा प्रभु पुरा दया दया मोरे पद छाया
ए बेजास गुशक त्रिभुवाना
हे बेयास शक्ति भुवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना
जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाशदादेशधारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी
पाशदादेशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासुदेव गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा
श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Jai Gaura Hari Bol,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajikachasta Tarasatara Shishi Shimadis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Pranam Shri Hoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gogopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakti Vinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled Lord, all glories to the assembled Lord, all glories to the assembled, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavani Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi, Guruvani Pucharini, Nirvisesa Sunyavadi, Paskatya Desatani. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way by which we can attain to pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord and master of devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana Ki